It started as a whirlwind romance that shocked everyone. A 60-year-old woman, Evelyn, married a man young enough to be her son. Jason, just 29, charmed her in ways she never thought possible. Friends and family were skeptical, but Evelyn believed in love. She had spent most of her life alone, and Jason made her feel alive again. But just 2 days after their wedding, something unthinkable happened. Evelyn's dream life turned into a nightmare, and Jason's true intentions started to unravel. The warnings she ignored suddenly made sense, but by then it was too late. As the pieces of the puzzle came together, a terrifying pattern emerged, one that led back to 4 others before her. Evelyn wasn't the first, and she might not be the last. What happened in those crucial 48 hours? And who was really behind it all? Stay tuned as we uncover the chilling truth. Evelyn had always been careful with her heart. After years of disappointment, she never thought she'd find love again, until Jason came along. He was charming, attentive, and knew exactly what to say. Their connection felt effortless, and despite the whispers around her, she believed she had finally found happiness. But 2 days after the wedding, everything changed. Jason was no longer the warm, affectionate man she had fallen for. He became distant, distracted, almost as if he was waiting for something. Then Evelyn started noticing strange things, calls he wouldn't answer, messages he quickly deleted, and a tension in the air she couldn't quite explain. That's when she stumbled upon something she wasn't supposed to see. A name. A date. A chilling detail that made her blood run cold. She wasn't imagining things. Jason had a past. And now she feared she had just become part of it. Evelyn's hands trembled as she stared at the paper she had found tucked inside Jason's jacket. It wasn't just a random note. It was a list. Names, dates, and locations. Some were crossed out, others still untouched. At the very bottom, her name was written in careful, deliberate letters. Her mind raced. What did this mean? Why was she on this list? And who were the others? A sickening feeling settled in her stomach as she searched the names online. One by one, they led to chilling news reports, stories of sudden disappearances, unexplained tragedies, and grieving families left without answers. Jason walked into the room just as she closed the last article. He smiled, but this time she saw something she hadn't before, something cold beneath the surface. "Everything okay?" he asked, his voice calm, too calm. Evelyn forced a nod, but inside, panic was setting in. She needed to know the truth before it was too late. Evelyn could barely steady her breathing as Jason watched her. She forced a smile, hoping he wouldn't notice the way her fingers clenched the edge of the table. "Just tired," she muttered, avoiding his gaze. Jason didn't move for a moment, then slowly nodded. "Maybe you should rest," he said, his voice smooth but unreadable. That night, sleep was impossible. Every noise in the house made her heart pound. She kept thinking about the list, the names, and the eerie feeling that she was running out of time. As quietly as she could, she slipped out of bed and tiptoed toward Jason's suitcase. If there were more clues, she needed to find them now. Her hands trembled as she unzipped the bag. Inside, she found neatly folded clothes, a second phone she had never seen before, and at the very bottom, something that made her freeze. It was an envelope, thick, heavy, and labeled with tomorrow's date. Evelyn's fingers hesitated over the envelope. Her breath was shallow, her pulse hammering in her ears. Why tomorrow's date? What was inside? Slowly, she peeled it open, her hands shaking. Inside, she found stacks of cash, a passport, and a one-way ticket. Jason's name printed in bold letters. But it was what she found next that made her blood run cold. Tucked between the bills was a photograph, her photograph. Someone had taken it recently. She could tell by the dress she wore just yesterday. Scribbled on the back were 2 words. Asterisk asterisk final step asterisk asterisk. The room suddenly felt too small, the air too thick. She needed to leave. Now, but just as she turned to zip the suitcase shut, she heard it. The slow, deliberate creak of the bedroom door opening. Couldn't sleep. Jason's voice was quiet, but there was something in it that sent a shiver down her spine. He was watching her, and he knew. Evelyn's heart pounded as she slowly turned to face Jason. He stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable, his eyes locked onto the open suitcase. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then he took a slow step forward. "You've been busy," he said, his voice calm, too controlled. Evelyn swallowed hard, forcing herself to stay still. "Why do you have this?" she asked, holding up the envelope. Jason tilted his head, as if amused by the question. "Evelyn," he sighed, stepping closer. "You weren't supposed to see that. Not yet." A cold realization settled over her. He had planned something that was supposed to happen asterisk asterisk tomorrow asterisk asterisk. Her stomach turned. She had no choice. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, she grabbed the suitcase and threw it at him, dashing for the door. Jason stumbled but recovered fast. "Evelyn, stop!" he shouted, but she was already running. Fleeing open the front door, she sprinted into the night, her only thought. Asterisk asterisk escape asterisk asterisk. But as she reached the driveway, headlights flashed. A car idled just beyond the house. Before she could react, the door swung open, and a familiar voice called out, "Get in, now." Evelyn's breath caught. It was Detective Harris, the same officer she had seen in one of the old news reports. The one investigating the missing women. Asterisk asterisk the ones on the list asterisk asterisk. Jason was right behind her now, his footsteps fast, determined. Without thinking, she lunged for the car. The second she slammed the door shut, the detective hit the gas. Jason stood frozen in the headlights, his expression finally stripped of charm, just cold, calculating fury. As they sped away, Evelyn's hands shook. "How did you know?" she whispered. The detective exhaled. "Because, Evelyn, you were never his first choice. You were just the first to make it out alive." Evelyn stared out the window, her breath uneven as the house faded into the distance. The weight of everything crashed over her. How close she had come to disappearing like the others. Detective Harris drove in silence for a moment before speaking. "We've been watching him for months. We just didn't have enough to stop him. Until now." He glanced at her. "You were the break we needed." Evelyn's hands tightened in her lap. The list, the envelope, the way Jason had watched her. It all made sense now. She had been his next target. But she wasn't just another name. She was the one who got away. By morning, Jason was in custody. His carefully built life unraveled in front of the world. Evelyn would never forget the man she thought she loved, but she had survived. And as she walked away from the past, she knew one thing for sure: she would never ignore the warning signs again.